communities that are looking forward. And I will just hope that we will continue to choose Jamaica and choose vision and choose prosperity, and that water is not a luxury, it is a right.
Water is life. The commodity is precious. Member of Parliament for St. James Central Hero Clark believes that water project will go a far way to address the water challenges of that constituency.
This is absolutely great news. As you may be aware, in Western Hanover, we have challenges with water, and it is just great news because, as I understand it, the leg from Great River to Negril will be improved, and that is just great news. We are looking forward to the implementation and execution of this, and I know everyone in Hanover, be it Eastern or Western, will benefit greatly from this project.
Dave Brown, the Member of Parliament for Hanover Eastern, agrees.
It's a win-win for all, especially persons in the Hanover belt, because we have always have this issue where we are being bypassed by the persons claim that we are being bypassed by the Great River Water Supply System, which runs through the constituency or the parish.
The NWC partnering with MedJC to ensure.
All right, Western Resilience Water Project. And just sharing there with some of our members of Parliament who understand how impactful this project is going to be. And we didn't see Dr. Chang up there, but we know that his constituency is also very much impacted, and it's going to be a blessing, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe. At this time, let me bring him to the lectern to speak with us. Our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang. Put your hands together for him. Make him welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me the shirt makers don't make my size shirts. A little bit too small. I don't recognize under Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, our Prime Minister. Welcome to this parish of Trelawny, the Western region, as you're always. My colleague ministers, Minister Ed Bartlett, Minister of Tourism and Neighboring Constituency, and Minister Samuda, who was on the way to the west, they decided to stop in St. Anne. Member of Parliament, and my colleague, Ira Clark from Montego Bay Central, Deputy Speaker of the House, MP Toba Hamilton, the councillors or the officials present, of course, Chairman of the Water Commission, the Managing Director of Vinci, my good friend Timothy de la Barre. Oh, Homer, you're on this far right, so you get to this far now. My colleague, Minister Homer Davis from Southern St. James, and many distinguished visitors and members of the constituents from all across Western Jamaica, in particular Trelawny and St. James. Good afternoon to you. I'm not sure why I was the one selected to speak up here, but first, let me say, I'm allowed to make a few remarks, and the appropriate person will introduce the Prime Minister who needs an introduction. And my remarks may be interpreted by some in a different light, but we're a democratic country, and elections are due this year, and every one of you have to make a decision in relation to your future and the future of the country. I think one of the things we do by the traditional loyalties is we get out there and we vote, because I'm a member of the Labour Party for many years, so to the other members here, and they are members of the PNP. But we're a developing country, and I think I'd like to make a remark to remind ourselves that government matters, policy matters, and the program matters for the country and we are going. I think I was asked to speak this morning because I've had some relations with water. And I met Timothy while I was Minister of Water, and his good friend, late Etienne. And so did I meet EG2 and the Managing Director of Water Commission. Water is life, and that's a truism. It's one of the elements you cannot live without for very long. And it is critical to development. I think Falmouth as a city had one of the first water development in the island. 1799, I think, was they started. At that time, that water supply was not only adequate, it was almost more than adequate. It came from the Martha Brae and made Falmouth one of the more prosperous and central points on the North Coast. But country develops and systems must evolve. Eventually that went away. I think aspect of it that hangs around like historical venues in the banks of the Martha-Brae. Later on, the country created two water companies. National Water Authority governed the rural areas with a series of systems, and then there's a corporate area system at the time, Kingston St. Andrew Water Supply System. In 1980, the new government of Jamaica Labour Party, Mr. Josiah, created the National Water Commission, designed to provide a national body to supply the entire island and do it at a professional level where you needed engineers, people who understand hydrology and others to develop a water system. That means not only developing production, but adequate distribution to meet the growing demand of a developing country and also contribute to the growth of the country. That, of course, required a government that understood the demands of development and continued this. So, in fact, very early on, the system was, the old Martha-Brae system came out of that National Water Commission. I had the privilege of being in the Water Commission in the first iteration of the Labour Party government between 2007 and 2011. By then, of course, the entire island had inadequate systems. It's a fact. This is not a partisan or political issue, it's just a fact of life. And we initiated a program which was calculated to cost the country about $3 billion to begin to take our water supply system, not only to be more resilient, as indicated in the title for the Western Resilient Water Project, but to provide adequate supply. And during that short 5-year term, of course, the cost of infrastructure on that side was never really thought about. So it took us a little while, but I was able to commit near $700 million to water, and that's where we met Vinci. We activated another 2 projects associated with that. There was the KSA project for over $100 million, and we had a project from the Japanese for $89 billion. And in a 12-month period, we were able to negotiate with Vinci and did it along similar lines as a national project and start a project that prevented the entire corporate area from running out of water. It is hard to envisage that, but it didn't happen, so nobody appreciated it. Well, we had to rebuild the entire Constant Spring plant, which supplies 18 million gallons of water to Kingston. It was down to 10. And Kingston was going through a period in 2009 when water at University Hospital, the schools on that side of Kingston were closed in half day and sometimes not open at all. Well, we resolved that, but behind that, we had designed enough, we had committed enough plan or designed enough to extend water across that, including the system. In fact, we worked closely with engineers and designed a system that said would require about $3 billion US. The government changed, and everything stopped like you turn a door and lock the key with a key. They were able to complete the project in the corporate area, Jamaica Water Sector Improvement Project, which those some Kingston are aware of and the water companies are aware of, which ensured that we have water in Kingston to drink today. Nothing was done otherwise to continue a program which was crucial to the development of the country. I said the project in the Water Commission just stopped. Like you close the door and lock the key with the key. And that is a fact of history. And not doing what the government changed, plans changed, programs changed, and the entire rehabilitation of the water system stopped. And it was inevitable that we got to this point. I don't want to keep you all day, how long my Prime Minister speak, got other implications for the corporate area, but that project, those projects that are initiated on the Jamaica Water Sector Improvement, activated in the KSA program, which, interestingly and why government and leadership matters, and we're going to hear the Prime Minister why, the funding for the KSA program sat in the Bank of Jamaica for 9 years and was not used. 9 long years without being used. The proposal here, they'll go over that. The JICA program was on for nearly 7 years, and when it was completed, the Japanese ambassador called me to thank me for ensuring it was executed. Those projects ensure that Kingston had water. In fact, we have had no more complaints in Spanish Town, and aspects of the supply of Kingston, there's still a problem, is being dealt with by the current minister, the Prime Minister. But had we continued the program, and it's not a program, it is a nebulous program in the air. It is something that, if you go to the engineering department at Vinci, they have designs. If you go to the Water Commission, they have them documented, that we could have executed. All it took was a decision. It required a decision by the government every day to make that we needed to institute these activities. We would never have had the problem we're having today. It is today when I got up this morning to indicate I'm getting ready to come to Trelawny. Well, the first news I got from my minister was that the main line from Martlebury to Montego Bay break again. It is so old, once you put the pressure on it, bust right before the police station, one more pipeline gone. Which means my entire constituency of a population of 100,000 is without water, without running water. It's not like a little rural district where you want running water, but you can set a truck of water in there and they get water. You can fill a tank on the roadside and some people will catch on this. Primitive, but they will get water. There's no way you can truck water to 100,000 people. We're talking there 20,000 houses. My colleague Ira Clark is in the same boat. There's no water between Central and Northwest St. James. My friend Ed Bartlett has major problem, but not the 100%. He's got that big area, right? So too my colleague who spoke earlier, Ms. Marlene Ford. And that is all because this system should have been changed a long time ago. And that's why I say without apology, government matters, leadership matters. How do we continue to execute on the program of rehabilitation for the Water Commission? This would not have happened. What happened in Montego Bay would not be happening. And therefore, it is to the commendation of not the Water Commission, but to the Prime Minister, who have initiated a program of this sort to ensure Jamaica's infrastructure is resilient, but not only resilient, is future-proof. So that Minister Bartlett can seek negotiations to build hotels, that there'll be water, not broken mains every time the hotel come on. A hotel takes, of the size being built, like out by Anshore, will require up to 3 million gallons of water per day to keep active. But you cannot wait until the hotel is built to put the water there. Our guests will come and leave while the hotel not open. And that's why government matters. So I'm not asked to where to vote or what to, but think about what you do, because this is a democracy. So I'm not talking to the General Secretary this morning. I'm talking to a public servant, the elected public servant, because sometimes we just sit down, nothing will go on, and nothing will happen. Government matters and leadership matters. Okay? Take strong leadership for the Prime Minister to commit this kind of money. $176 billion here. It's the only government that's committed this kind of money. In 2008, 2009, it was a Labour Party government that committed $211 million to ensure that Kingston still have water to drink. And the process, when we were doing the infrastructure and highways, initiated large funding to complete that process in there. So today, I'm very pleased to be here, despite of the challenge of this morning, when I said my constituency have no water. And because it's an urban area, we do have water trucks are out too much, and the water trucks themselves are old, you're in trouble. And I can't say what I have to do, but I find trucks that have tanks and tell them go get water out there. And of course, I want to thank the Water Commission leadership in Montego Bay to allow me to allow those trucks to go to the water, because I have to get water in the community. Advise the community to take the water, and if they want to drink, they will boil it or they'll buy drinking water. But they need water for a lot of things, and we have had to commandeer, literally, trucks around Montego Bay, and we're getting some water out. And I have to give thanks to the Water Commission. We're not supposed to just give out water like that, but in the face of what we have, they're incorporating. But this morning, it's certainly pleasing to be here as we launch the Western Resilience Water Project, which will see the pipeline laid out by the Vice President of Vinci, who is here in charge of Jamaica, across the northwestern region. Ultimately, we'll have to do the circle for the island, Timothy, and maybe you're young enough to be here, and we'll be there long enough to start it. I'm confident this Prime Minister will ensure we start the process. We may not go right around the island immediately, but we're going to take some of all this water on the north side and get to the south, But the entire North Coast, the Western region, and the South Coast will have adequate potable water. Jamaica has adequate potable water. What we need is the infrastructure to produce and distribute. And this government, under the leadership of Andrew Holness, is committed to ensuring that, because water is fundamental to development in any society. Again, Marisa, I'm looking straight at you and you're You're sitting without the yellow shirt and green. I greeted you earlier. My member of parliament from the South, who has tremendous water problem. She will not benefit from this one, but I think the Cross River is coming very nearby. Right? There's work being done to ensure the communities have water. In fact, Ms. Hampton was sitting and a little bit happy to see this water project, telling me that all over North Shore have the water on the coastline. The hotels have water, she want water. But I will venture to anticipate my minister, who has a lot of things to talk about, and tell her that the Bounty Hall should be operational today, and we'll come back at it. And that's the water she wants saying. Right? Ensure it is going. The commitment of the government, of this government, is to ensure that the basic infrastructure is in place to accommodate development for commercial and residential. There are big issues that Andrew Holness had to face as Prime Minister. Infrastructure, roadways, he's building highways. We started discussing the perimeter road in 2003. It is 20 years later, Andrew Holness as Prime Minister started that road to bring relief and development opportunities to Montego Bay and create the conditions that down there. Water, we're discussing all along. In fact, in that same era, and he has committed to doing it. We have been dealing with the murder rates of over 1,000 from 2020. With his investment, the policy created that he has directed to me as National Security Minister, we see murder rate going down. And in urban areas, like my constituency, we see night activities again, from futsal to prayer meetings, active, and people go about their business peacefully. It is his commitment to tackle the big challenges and provide a foundation of development. This is one more major project using Jamaica's money, because the giant in the room was always how you manage the economy. And this project is being financed by dollars and cents from the taxpayers' money. So when all the talk is around, it's your money. Jamaicans can talk again, even without any increase in tax for 9 years, that across the country we are doing major infrastructure projects. Not a little dibby sum, not a little crash program. People are getting real jobs in hotels, real jobs everywhere. And at the same time, we are seeing our infrastructure go to development levels. That's the commitment of our Prime Minister. And I want to say, it's my privilege and pleasure to be beside him. And it's a privilege this morning to again be participating in one more major project built by Labour for the people of Jamaica. I thank you all. Have a good afternoon and a good day. Choose Jamaica correctly.
Thank you very much. Our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang. Thank you for giving us a little bit of the history, taking us back and putting things into perspective as we work to future-proofing our water infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Matthew Samuda is Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. He is with us this afternoon, and it is my pleasure to bring him to the lectern. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you, Madam Master of Ceremonies. Allow me to briefly acknowledge the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Deputy Prime Minister Horace Chang, Minister Ed Bartlett, colleague Minister Homer Davis, MPs, especially Madam Tova Hilton and Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert. Thank you for having us in Trelawny this afternoon. Allow me to also acknowledge the senior management team of the National Water Commission and indeed the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation led by Madam Arlene Williams. Of course, allow me to welcome Vinci, and I will dive into the substance of the presentation. Now, a lot has been made about the transformational nature of this project. And before we get into the substance of this project, one of the issues I would like to deal with frontally, Madam MP, is that often when you do these national projects that see water going across parish borders, going across constituency borders, the question is asked, as it was asked of us at the Pepper Wells, Prime Minister, why are you moving my water and I have particular challenges within proximity? So, Madam MP, before we get into the substance of this particular project, I'm happy to report that the issues that you're facing in Bounty Hall will be resolved before the end of July. The Bounty Hall system has a 2 million gallon tank, and that tank is being reconfigured and fixed. We are installing standby pumps, and we're also doing some pipe work. This will boost supply within this area to Bounty Hall with over an additional 1 million gallons daily, Madam MP. So as your constituents listen, and those listen externally and certainly nationally, we want them to understand that we're also fixing the smaller systems in both northern and southern Trelawny. We're not taking your water and moving elsewhere. We're also fixing the distribution issues within this constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a transformational national project. This project is a commitment made, a commitment kept. This project is truly a national strategic development project. Now, what it is a genuine transformation of water distribution along the north coast. And that transformation will benefit residential customers, it will benefit commercial customers. And oftentimes when you talk about water challenges in Negril because of the logwood treatment plant, persons can't quite wrap their minds around why are we also speaking about Martha Bray? Why are we speaking about Agwater Vale in St. Mary? Why are we speaking about the White River treatment plant on the boundary with St. Mary and St. Anne? Why are we speaking about Great River? Because they seem so far away. And I think Timothy in his earlier presentation, and certainly Dr. Chang, would have explained that this project seeks to achieve interlinkage between our varying water sources across the length and breadth of the North Coast. And it truly seeks to achieve resilience brought about from stable water supply. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a massive undertaking that is a subset of a broader transformation taking place within the water sector in Jamaica. Because of a well-run National Water Commission chairman and members of the board, and because of a well-run economy, Prime Minister, this government, your government, is indeed investing 22 billion Jamaican dollars currently in open transactions, in open construction into the water sector. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean for Jamaicans? That investment comes on the back of previous investments, which since 2016 has seen 350,000 Jamaicans have better water supply today than they did then. But the $22 billion that we are underway with now is a subset of what we will do over the next 5 years to improve and build in resilience for water supply for some 900,000 Jamaicans. You see, a good economy, apparently, as you said, Prime Minister, can yam, but it can drink with the water supply that we are providing to Jamaicans also. Now, this specific project, the Western Resilience Water Project, Minister Bartlett, came about from many discussions. It came through many iterations. But to be fair to members of the JHTA and certainly the Negril Chamber of Commerce, who loudly advocated, and very positively so, because we are in a democracy and we must listen to citizens and respond to their needs. But the urgency came about with last year's drought in the northwest tip of the island, when the logwood facility in Hanover was producing at some times less than 10% of its capacity. Now, that came about because of significant climate realities. The climate has changed, our weather patterns have shifted. We've even seen some hydraulic flows shift. Now, that prompted a discussion. It prompted us to look at the entire system along the North Coast. And born of that is this project today, which this particular ceremony signifies the beginning of phase 1 of implementation. This particular project, or this phase of this project, will invest 28 billion Jamaican dollars in 2 transmission mains that will move water from the Martha Brae to the terminal reservoir in the center of St. James, which will transform the water supply in Montego Bay and its environs. Minister Bartlett, I'll come to Irwin Heights and Ryan Park shortly, because they will benefit too. So if you're in Westgate Hills, you will benefit too. If you are in Lucy, you will benefit. And you say, well, how do I benefit in Lucy? Well, because we'll no longer be pumping water into the ground from leaking pipes going into Montego Bay, there will be less pressure on Great River. Now, okay, well, there'll be less pressure on Great River to pump easterly. But we also acknowledge that the pipelines going into the west end of Negril, all the way from Great River, are also old. Many of these pipelines were laid actually in 1982, a little bit before I was born. So the truth is, this should have happened. This ceremony is about 23 years late, because we should have started this process in 2002. But if we acknowledge where we are, because of mistakes and misadventures of the past, we are now at that point where we're able to invest properly. So we will also be changing the transmission mains fully and totally from Lucy to the west end of Negril. There will be repairs and some replacements from the Great River Treatment Plant itself into Lucy. Now that is 68 kilometers total of pipe. At some points it will be as large as 36 inches, at other points it will be 24 inches of ductile iron pipes. Now these are massive pipes. There will be dislocation while we do this work. But Prime Minister, I have minuted, and I see members of the JHTA here, in our consultations, they said, you don't worry about the traffic when you're laying those pipes, because we need the pipes, Minister. I have that minuted, so I assure you we won't have any complaints about traffic during the construction phase of this project. But that is just phase 1 of a true transformation of the water distribution and production and total systems of the North Coast. Phase 2 will see significant increases in capacity and improvements in quality of water production. That will happen with the construction of 2 new water treatment plants, which we have engaged the World Bank for assistance. These will be done through PPPs. That will be done at Rio Bueno and indeed in Roaring River in Westmoreland. So we expect to add water treatment capacity. Now, there are 2 existing water treatment plants that we expect to significantly improve and get additional yields of over 10 million gallons daily between the Martha Brae system and indeed upgrades at the Great River system. So you see, Minister Bartlett, wherever you are intending to build, wherever the Prime Minister is building a housing scheme, wherever P.S. Williams is putting new roads, wherever our development journey is taking us, we're building in the water capacity to lay the base for that development. And we are proud of the work that has been done by the MEGJC, certainly through the Water Policy Unit, and we're proud of the work that has been done by the National Water Commission. But we're very thankful for the Prime Minister and his vision and commitment and his follow-through with the investment that is being made. Because you see, rainwater is free, but harnessing it is not free. Storing it is not free. Extracting it when it goes into the ground from wells is not free. Distributing it is certainly not free. It is for that reason we are putting our money where our mouth is. It's for that reason we thank the Prime Minister for his commitment to transforming water distribution in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the work that we are now doing in the water sector is 20 years late. There will be some pain points as we go through this transformation. It is also for that reason that in this season of choice we need to have honest discussions about where we are. I listened recently to someone who is no stranger to the political stage, former Member of Parliament from Westmoreland, who seems to have relocated, Madam MP, speak about water issues in northern Trelawny. And I wondered if this was the same individual who sat at the cabinet table, allocated nothing to the particular problem, allowed the pipes in the grill to cave in on themselves, to see people in the West End pay for trucking of water above their salary, at a cost above their salary, and you said to yourself, my goodness, my goodness. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to spend time looking back at those who created the problem. I am telling you that we are fixing the problem, and we are integrating our water systems in a manner that gives you the certainty that when you go home to your house, you don't need to have a bath pan because you can take a shower. It'll give you the certainty that if you have piece of land that has been left to you, go build your house because you're going to have access to potable water. The work we are doing also says to those who are most vulnerable in our society that yes, because of climate change, you do need some storage. It's why your government has already this year distributed 13,000 black tanks across the country. It is because of how we have run the Water Commission and because of our commitment to you and our commitment to ensure that every single Jamaican has potable water, that your Prime Minister instructed in November of last year that those who were disconnected because of high bills, if they were pensioners, if they were disabled, if they were on PATH program, they needed an amnesty. It is why we are coming up on about 10,000 Jamaicans who have been reconnected. I think we're a little below now, but we're getting close. We have attracted $680 million of payments that we wouldn't have collected otherwise. But we have written off $4 billion Jamaican dollars from the backs of poor people to ensure people can reconnect to the water system. So, hear me out as I come to conclusion. We are giving the dividends to those who most need it by way of distributing water tanks, by way of taking the burden of heavy bills from their backs, while running a water commission that I believe for the first time in its existence has had 3 straight years of surplus. So you make a surplus, you pass on the dividends to those who most need it. But in running the water commission well, in ensuring that the government is run well under your Prime Minister, we have the funds to invest $28 billion on this project without a dollar of debt. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a little over 2 years, we know that we will be well on the way. We are very clear that there is more work to do and there are more announcements to make. And those announcements have to yield tangible results. But whether you're in St. Mary, we'll break ground soon on Aguata Vale. And that will solve 30 years of water crisis in Port Maria. Whether you are somewhere near White River on Western St. Mary's boundary, we are going to solve your issue. If you are currently being supplied by Logwood, this will support you in Hanover and Negril. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of work to do, and we need serious people to do that work. For that reason, I am thankful to serve with Prime Minister Andrew Michael Holness as we transform the water sector. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. $28 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of our money. Yes, citizens of this country. Yes, and that's so very, very important. I think the chairman said it earlier on. It's a multi-billion-dollar project that will change Jamaica forever. A bold, bold, bold investment in our health, in our tourism, in our agriculture, in our manufacturing, in all the things that will make us tick as a nation. Thank you so much for your work, Minister Samuda. And at this time, I believe I glimpsed him coming in earlier on. A devoted father, a devoted husband, a man of faith known for his heartfelt performances and a very humble spirit. He captured the hearts of Jamaicans in 2024 and became our Digicel Rising Star for that year. So if you're ready for a little bit of entertainment at this time, please put your hands together for Akin Fennell our Digital Rising Star winner of 2024. Akeen, your time.
When I look at where I'm coming from, I know I'm blessed. I close my eyes and smile. Sometimes I feel like the richest man in Babylon, and I've done my best, so everything's alright inside. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know that it is a blessing. So when the evening comes, I will lift up my hands to the hills. I'm blessed, oh yes. So with my two hands in the air, as far as I can, yes. I mean, so with my two hands in the air, as far as I can. With my two hands in the air, as far as I can. Lift up your hands in the air if you know you. Yeah. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know that it is a blessing. Life is a lesson. Ooh. Lift up my hands to the hills, I'm blessed. Oh, yes. Ooh. Sometimes I'm lost and far from home, but I find my way. I follow my heart, I know I'll be fine someday. But while I'm lost, I learn and leave. What do you say? Let's have a good time until that day. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know that it is a lesson. So when the evening comes, I lift up my hands to the hills with bless, oh yes. Jamaica, with my two hands in the air as far as I, as far as I can, yes. I wish I lift up your hands in the air if you know we can. Lift up your hands in the air. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know that life is a blessing, life is a lesson. Ooh, yeah. Lift up your hands in the air, Jamaica we bless. Oh yes, with my two hands in the air. Yes. Oh, every morning I'm rise, I'm stare at the sun. I know that life is a blessing, life is a blessing. Ooh. With my two hands in the air, as far as, with my two hands in the air, as far as I can. Thank you.
Ooh. I kind of felt like I was going to get a little bit more, but put your hands together for Akeen Fennell. Just getting a little taste of this young man's talent. And tell you, he's going places. Vision, they say, without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes time. But vision with action can change the world. Allow me to bring to the lectern at this time Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. You're all looking so lovely, and it is indeed my pleasure to be with you this afternoon to launch, break ground, this very important project, the Western Resilience Water Project, groundbreaking for Phase 1. Let me begin my presentation to you by reflecting on the many calls that are made to radio stations on a daily basis about ordinary Jamaicans who do not have this most important life-giving commodity of water. And I want them to know that I literally hear almost all of these calls because I monitor the radios, I monitor the programs, and I listen very carefully to the complaints that are made. And I want every Jamaican that is without water today to know that I know. But more than that, it is not knowledge without concern. I know and I care. It is more than sympathy or empathy. I am doing something about it. And I would wish you to have faith in that. It is difficult after decades of having faith to be asked to continue to have faith. What is the alternative? The alternative is despair. But in me and the government I administer in your behalf, you can take the biblical admonition of faith. It's the substance of things hoped for. You can take this project today as the substance of the delivery of resilient water into your pipes. And it is the evidence of the things you have not seen, but you figure it's there, you know it's there. Well, you have the evidence of it today. In fact, I would want you to consider that in 2017, a community in southeast St. Mary called Gibbs Hill had no water. And while I was campaigning in 2015, I visited Gibbs Hill. In the same way, I visited another small community in the parish of Clarendon called Rosewell. And they had no water. And they were complaining. And they called the radio stations. And I, when I became Prime Minister, and having made the commitment, I set about fulfilling it. The people of Rosewell, the people of Gibbs Hill now have water. We put in the investment. Like the billions of dollars of investments we have made right across Jamaica to make communities that previously were without water, they have water now. But those persons no longer call the radio stations. And I would wish that some of them would call and say, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I did not have, but I have now. Because the narrative that is created is that somehow the entire Jamaica is without water. So let's sum up those 2 points. Point number one, for the communities that are without water now, your voice is heard. I personally care about it. and the government that I administer on your behalf, we are working hard to correct and improve. And you can take hope and have faith, because others that were in your position now have water. And the government is now active with $425 million US of investment, or 67.5 billion Jamaican dollars of investment in the water supply for the western end of the island, that is going to, one, ensure that you have reliable water supply, two, ensure that the water supply is expanded to those who now don't have, and three, to ensure that in the event of shocks, whether they be weather shocks or other kinds of shocks, that you will have water. And that is not a promise, that is a commitment that is active and strongly made. And I want to put that commitment in perspective. It's now speaking to those persons who don't have water. The government of Jamaica allocated $45 billion for the Spark program. Recall that the Spark program is split into two. $20 billion is for the roads that pass your house, the local roads. And under that program, we will probably do about 600 roads. So you see, for this specific project, the extent of the expenditure, this project is $67.5 billion granted over 6 years. The Spark program, one element of it, is $20 billion, which will likely go over 2 to 3 years. And that's for the entire island. So I want you to see how seriously the government takes the water infrastructure. I have to put it in this context because the national narrative sometimes is skewed and is diverted by discussions that may not benefit from the facts of the situation. Now, granted, there will always be persons who choose to believe what they want, and no matter what facts are presented to them, they will be of the same view still. But it is my duty to bring the facts to you for you to choose. It is attributed to Einstein, the great physicist, though we can't find evidence that he actually said it. But it is usually attributed to him that the people who created the problem cannot be the same people to solve it. What we know he said is that the same thinking that created the problem can't be the same thinking to solve the problem. But the same people who created the problem usually have the same thinking in the first place. And they don't change, and therefore you can't ask them to go and solve the problem. What is the problem? Why a returning resident who lived for many years in the United States would move back to Jamaica in our old district and is of the view that somehow, the existing government is doing nothing. And it is ineffective government why there is no water. Now, in a sense, she is correct. But the problem has many dimensions. It is a complex problem as to why we have a water challenge. And though it is complex, it is also contradictory, because all of you would have grown up in school knowing Jamaica to be the land of wood and water. And that adds to the frustration. At the same time that we have rivers and deep wells and all kinds of hydrological features, there are communities that are simply dry and without. At the same time, we get heavy floods. And then in a few weeks, the rivers are dry. Well, historically, we did not settle where we had established water supply. So we are dealing with a historical settlement pattern where population centers are not in proximity to water sources. So that means that there has to be massive investments in bringing water from sources to population centers. We had to do a massive one of this in the 1980s when we brought water in from St. Thomas to feed the population of Kingston. And by the way, that project is what has kept Kingston alive. In the 1990s, we did another project where we brought water in from the Rio Cobre and from the Tullow Springs into Kingston. This project that we are speaking about, again, that's bringing water from all kinds of sources. Martha Brae, White River, to as far as into Negril. So you see that though we are blessed with water, and the water falls freely from the sky, the pipeline has to be purchased. The well has to be dug. The tanks for storage have to be built, not to mention the pumps and the lovely workers at the NWC that have to be paid. So water is an expensive infrastructure, and it becomes even more expensive because of our history of spatial settlement and our geography. There is truth in the view that government has been ineffective. Now, in a debate in Parliament on roads, I made the point that this administration is not to be blamed for bad roads or even for lack of water. However, we are responsible. It's a massive distinction. Because at the source of the government problem in water, or the government problems in roads, or the government problem in safety and security, or the government problem in health, is the management of the economy. Because for decades, you have been fed a narrative that the economy does not matter. There are politicians who would have stood up to you and say, the economy can't nyam. Meaning, don't tell me about GDP growth, inflation, debt cut, interest rate low, inflation low. Don't tell me about that. Because, you know, it has no impact necessarily on my household. And that has been the trick that has destroyed wise voting in Jamaica. Because you have separated the means of delivering the things you want from the wherewithal to do it. The economy can drink. The economy keep you healthy. The economy keep you safe. The economy provide you road. The economy provide you school. And until the Jamaican electorate understands that it is about the economy, Guyana recently decided to give an unconditional cash transfer to its citizens from its national budget. And they did several of it. They gave out the household something like $400 US. They gave students who are going to sit their CSEC exams, they gave them a grant. Where did they get this cash from? They're building massive highways. If you go to Guyana now, Guyana's growth rate is, I figure it's in the 50% growth rate, high growth rate. Where did all of that come from? Guyana discovered oil. Where are we getting $67.5 billion to spend on this project? Where are we getting $45 billion to spend on Spark? Where are we getting the money to give you $1 billion in the Solidarity Program, a give back to 50,000 Jamaicans who did not receive any benefits at all? They are not on PATH or any of the social safety net, and they did not receive the reverse tax credit. Where did that come from? It came from the dividends from the good management of your economy. So discovering good management of the economy is the equivalent of discovering oil. Take that away, and you end up in a situation where your spatial growth outpaces your infrastructure. Take that away, and the actions of criminal elements in your society outpaces your law enforcement capability. Take that away, and your hospitals fall into disrepair, and they are unable to give you the service that you require. Take that away, and your pipes, your pumping stations, your tanks, they deteriorate, and you have no water. Take that away, and your roads can't be repaired. No, not everyone looks at it that way. Asphalt falls from the sky like water falls from the sky. So I make this point to you today, that we are able to gather this large crowd of very proud Jamaicans who are looking with great hopes that their water situation will be solved, that all the other things that they hope for will materialize, because we have finally addressed the engine of delivery, which is the economy. It's not perfect. The economy is still in a fragile state. But I want you to think on this word that I'm going to use, and it is in the title of this project: resilience. So Jamaica was considered in many instances the basket case of the region because of our debt situation. We have moved the debt from 120, 130% of GDP. The debt is now at 68% of GDP. In fact, it might even go down a little bit more. We were once considered the crime capital of the region. We have moved the murder rate from 49 per 100,000 to now, halfway through the year, we are about 25 per 100,000. In both instances, it's government policy. Government spent almost $90 billion on our national security. $90 billion. 3 times what was spent in the previous 9 years. But there are those who would want to say, no, the government has nothing to do with this, it's the police. I mean, all of a sudden, the police get new cars, new technology, new kit. It just materialized, like somebody snapped their fingers and it just happened. And of course, there are those who want to believe that. Well, if you believe that, you go ahead. But the reality is that government matters. And who governs your country matters. And the platform on which I stand on is a platform that is of the greatest integrity. The greatest integrity is someone who says, this is what we commit to, and does it. So I go back to all the callers to the radio programs who are frustrated about your water. We will bring water to your district. We will bring water to your community. You will be able to stand in your brand new bathroom that you have built with your soaking tub and all the other modern amenities and have flowing potable water in your home. This is something that this administration is committed to, not just by words, but by allocation. By running your economy well, by using your tax dollars well and wisely, we will put in place the systems to be able to deliver the benefit that you want. It is not, however, going to happen before the next election, as some people would want you to believe. What we are certain of is that we have put in place systems. And as I look to close my presentation to this audience that is obviously wrapped by every word that I have said, as I close my presentation to you, I run the Mona Dam most mornings. That infrastructure was built almost 80 years ago. It was built by a colonial grant. And it continues to serve parts of Kingston and St. Andrew. In fact, it is a critical piece of infrastructure, indispensable. As is the Hermitage Dam, which is heading towards 100 years old. Again, built by the colonial government. Both infrastructure are aged. More so, the Hermitage Dam, which at some point in time, we will have to effect massive repairs or do some other innovative things to it for it to last another 100 years. Infrastructure, whether it is a reservoir or a dam, it takes time to construct. So I want everyone who is calling and saying, I need my water today, to bear this in mind. Construct any infrastructure, you're looking at 6 months to 2 years. In today's world, the time for planning sometimes is longer than the time for actual construction. Because you, the electorate, the citizens, the residents, also want probity, accountability, transparency, reporting in the process of making these massive allocations. You want to be assured that every dollar of that 67.5 billion Jamaican dollars ends up in the project and not in someone's pocket. So there is a period of time for the process of accountability, as there is a period of time for the process of construction. I did not wake up this morning and say to Minister Sabuda, come, let us go break ground for the $67 billion project. You would have heard when the project was dreamt of, Timothy pointed out that E.G. Hunter, former managing director, thought that we needed a ring around parts of Jamaica to supply water. Then there was a break in a transmission main that took water from St. Catherine into Kingston. And at that point in time, we had to allocate almost $3 billion to repair it. Then there was a break on this line again, which affected all the communities, in particularly those tourism communities. And the cabinet sat down and said, you know what? We need to make this investment. 2 years ago, I announced in Parliament that we're going to do it. And we are now here today to break ground. In the same way that 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago, we decided that we would do, or the vision of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road was born. But previous governments couldn't do it because they just didn't have the wherewithal, the resources. They didn't manage the economy well. Now, 2 years ago, we broke ground wearing a shirt similar to this. And I can stand here today, 2 years hence, and I'm very pleased to see that they have started asphalting, putting on the final layer on parts of the road. But that's how long it takes. That's how long it takes. So I understand your frustration. I can't come and lie to you and tell you that, you know, you're going to get the election, the water, 10 days after the election. Or we're going to come and build 50,000 houses. I can't come and tell you falsehoods. There are processes in place. But what you should take hope in is that the processes are funded, you see evidence of it working, and we continue to manage the engine of the economy that will deliver these projects. So for all the people who are concerned, have faith. The water is coming in a resilient way, meaning that if you have drought, you will still have water. If one main break, we'll be able to divert water to somewhere else. If one pump goes down, you will continue to have water because the system is resilient. That's the idea of what we are doing. That is the Western Water Resilience Project. That is what we're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, you have been a gracious audience. I hope that I have been able to stretch your minds a bit and who knows, maybe confront some long existing biases, and maybe there is a change of view or a sharpening of views. God bless you and thank you. Choose Jamaica.
Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes time. Vision with action will change Jamaica. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And let me bring to the lectern, as we wrap things up for today, this very momentous occasion, let me bring Ms. Tova Hamilton, Member of Parliament for Trelawny Northern. She comes to do the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. Today we give thanks, not just with words, but with a deep gratitude of a people whose parched dreams are finally being quenched by progress. My constituents and I are especially elated to hear of the imminent completion of the Bounty Hall system. This community has been having water challenges, Minister, from before I was born. So you can imagine the impact of this project. It is indeed an honor to offer this vote of thanks at what is a watershed moment, not only for Trelawny, but for the entire western region of our island. This groundbreaking represents far more than pipes and pumps. It is the manifestation of vision, resilience, and the unyielding belief that water, like hope, must reach every corner of this land. Let me first extend heartfelt thanks to the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, whose commitment to infrastructure and sustainable development is nothing short of refreshing and continues to transform lives. You are the architect of possibility, sir, and we thank you. To the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister Matthew Samuda, and the entire team at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, thank you for navigating the vast and often complex channels of policy, funding, and coordination that gave form to this multi-billion-dollar dream. To the National Water Commission, led by its board, management, and staff, thank you for being the guardians of Jamaica's most precious resource. Your mandate is sacred. Water is life. And today we're witnessing your dedication to delivering it, not as a privilege, but as a right. To our international partners, the French Embassy, the European Union, merci. Your belief in Jamaica's future flows generously through this project. To Vinci Construction, thank you for bringing the technical precision that will turn blueprints into lifelines. And now allow me to acknowledge the other pillars of today's success. The Reverend Sheldon Ashman, thank you for starting us off on a spiritual high. Your prayer reminded us that before there can be water from the earth, there must be grace from above. May this project always be covered in that grace. To our Digital Rising Stars winner, your performance was like rain in drought. You moved us. You reminded us that Jamaica is rich not only in natural resources, but in human talent. Continue to shine. To our moderator, who expertly and elegantly guided us through today's proceedings, thank you for keeping the program flowing smoothly. Like any great reservoir, you managed the pressure and ensured every moment counted. To my parliamentary colleagues, councillors, mayors, and of course the ever-faithful people of Trelawny and Western Jamaica, today you are the real VIPs. You are not just beneficiaries, you are the co-owners of this moment. You dared to believe that clean, reliable, round-the-clock water could one day be your reality. And here we are, on the brink of a new flow of life, opportunity, and growth. This is phase one of a US $425 million journey, a historic declaration that Jamaica will no longer be held hostage by droughts, aging infrastructure, or climate uncertainty. From Martha Brae to Negril, Falmouth to Miami Bay, we're building resilience one pipe at a time. We will reduce losses, expand capacity, and ensure service reliability. That means more homes with steady water, more businesses with confidence to grow, and more children with access to clean and safe hydration. As Member of Parliament for Trelawny Northern, I stand proud yet humbled. Proud of what we are achieving, humbled by the trust placed in us to deliver. As we move from blueprint to backhoe, from groundbreaking to grand opening, let us not lose sight of the bigger picture. Let this be a reminder of what is possible when partnerships align, when leadership is steadfast, and when people come together with purpose. So today, let the word go forth. Water is on the way, not just for some, but for all. Not just for now, but for the next generation. And as we close, I leave with you one rallying call. Let us choose Jamaica. Choose development. Choose unity. Choose to move forward together. Thank you, and may the blessings flow abundantly and endlessly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam MP, for thanking all of us this afternoon. Now we're at that time when we're going to have the official groundbreaking. And I believe, Mr. Prime Minister, you also have a special duty, a demonstration of sorts. And I trust you're up to the task, sir. But we will see. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to take you through the program this afternoon. And I just want to leave you with this quote that says, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Have yourselves a wonderful afternoon, and I'm going to ask that we allow the Prime Minister, accompanied by our Deputy Prime Minister, our Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, our Minister of Tourism, Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Minister Homer Davis, MP Heroy Clark, MP Morland Wilson, Mrs. Arlene Williams, our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, our Chairman of the Board of the Commissioners of the National Water Commission, and of course, Mr. Timothy Delabar, Country Manager. And I think that would be the number of persons that we have down to, I think that's the number of forks or shovels that we have. So we're going to invite you to make your way to my right, where those shovels are. Your hard hats are also there, and we ask that you don them so that we can get the groundbreaking out of the way. And of course, the others of us are welcome to join them on the other side. All right? For those persons who are going on And there's just one more to go.
Yeah, because yes, I don't know what you're and you're still an extra trouble.
Alright, we want to make sure we get a lovely shot of this. So,
two extra 1, 2, 3, 4.
alright, so the Western Resilience Water Project launched and groundbreaking. And we're going to ask the partners to lead this process.
The in front here. We're live here.
No Ben. Start on this side.
Yes, right beside PS.
Look at the cameras, look at the cameras.
1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Again. Again.
All right, and I gather
No,
Prime Minister knows how to operate. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
Come back so we can get some distance. Appetite.
Oh, sorry. Enough, go move, man.
Robin.
Wanna not move?
Jeremy.
More. Thinking my Jesus, we'll fix it.